Welcome back to the channel, where stories come alive and choices have consequences. Today's tale is about a girl who made one mistake, but instead of staying broken, she changed her fate. She was the kind of girl everyone noticed, not because she was loud, but because her silence had weight. Her name stirred whispers. She walked like someone carrying something too heavy for her age, and her eyes held more questions than answers. The day her life changed didn't begin with thunder or warning, it began with a soft lie she didn't think mattered. She had borrowed something that wasn't hers. A small thing. A silver bracelet that belonged to her aunt, a gift passed down by her grandmother. She wanted to look pretty for school. That was all. But by nightfall, the bracelet was missing, and so was her peace. When her aunt found out, the anger wasn't loud, it was cold. That same night, she pointed at the girl and said words no one in the family had ever heard before. "You have taken what you did not earn. Until you learn the weight of your actions, peace will leave you too." At first, it sounded like an ordinary scolding. But the next day, her best friend avoided her. Then her teachers stopped calling on her. Even her dog wouldn't come when she called. And dreams. They turned dark. Every night, she would wake up feeling chased, her heart pounding like it wanted to escape her chest. She started hearing whispers when no one was there. Something was wrong, and it clung to her like wet clothes. The house grew colder when she walked in. Her mother started falling sick often. Things began breaking around her without touch. It was like everything she cared about was slowly crumbling. She knew then, it wasn't just bad luck. She had been marked. But how do you fix a mistake when no one wants to listen to you? When your words feel empty, and even mirrors seem to turn away? She wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. She would have to find her own way. She would have to fight. Because if her fate had been cursed by one mistake, then maybe, just maybe, one bold act could change it. The village priest wouldn't see her. Her aunt ignored her like she never existed. Even her mother, weak and coughing in bed, seemed afraid to touch her. The girl sat behind the house every evening, staring at the sky like it had answers. She didn't cry much anymore. What was the point? Tears didn't change anything. But one day, something strange happened. She was walking home from the stream, arms sore from carrying a bucket, when she saw an old woman struggling to gather fallen mangoes under a tree. People walked past like she was invisible. The girl hesitated, then dropped her bucket and helped. The woman didn't thank her. She just looked at her. Deeply. "Your kindness is still louder than your curse," she said quietly, then walked away. That night, the girl had a different kind of dream. Not dark. Not cold. She saw herself standing in a forest, barefoot, surrounded by trees whispering her name. A voice spoke from behind, "What was taken can be returned. But first, what is broken must be faced." When she woke up, her hands were dirty. Leaves clung to her hair. She ran to her mother's room. Her mother was sitting up for the first time in days, looking stronger. The girl didn't understand, but something had shifted. She went to her aunt's house. The door creaked when she knocked. Her aunt opened it with narrowed eyes. The girl didn't wait. She dropped to her knees and said everything. About the bracelet. The lie. The fear. The curse. Her aunt said nothing. Then she walked inside and brought out a small carved box. "This belonged to my mother. I wore it when I was your age. You were curious, not evil. But I was hurt. Still, I should not have cursed you." Then she whispered something into her palm and blew it gently into the girl's face. A warm breeze passed through her chest. And just like that, the shadows started to lift. But healing wasn't instant. Her journey had only just begun. Her name still stirred whispers, but now, they were mixed with wonder. Something had awakened inside her. Something stronger than the curse. The next morning, the air felt different. Lighter. The sun touched her skin without biting, and the birds didn't scatter when she walked past. For the first time in weeks, someone greeted her. A boy in her class. Just a simple good morning, but it landed like a miracle. At school, her teacher called on her to read. Her voice trembled, but she read. When she finished, the class clapped. Not loud. Not forced. Just enough to tell her they saw her again. But not everything was back to normal. There were still whispers behind her back. Some people stared too long. Some crossed the street when they saw her coming. And at night, the dreams returned, not dark, but restless. The forest again. The voice again. What is broken must be faced, it kept saying. One evening, she returned to the same spot where she had helped the old woman. The tree stood still, its leaves rustling without wind. She waited, heart beating loud. Just when she was about to give up, the woman appeared, same faded wrapper, same sharp eyes. I returned what I borrowed, the girl said quickly. The woman shook her head. You think that was the curse? The girl blinked. The mistake wasn't the bracelet. It was the silence that followed. You feared shame more than truth. The words stung. Because they were true. Come, the woman said, turning towards the bush path. If you want peace, you must enter the forest. The real one. The girl followed. As the trees thickened and the path disappeared, she started to sweat. Not from heat, but fear. Every sound felt louder here. Branches cracked beneath her feet. Birds called out warnings. The forest felt alive. Watching. They reached a clearing where a shallow stream bubbled softly. The woman pointed. Wash your hands. Speak the truth out loud. Then wait. The girl knelt. I took the bracelet. I lied. I was afraid of looking small. I was wrong. She dipped her hands into the stream. It stung. Like fire. But she didn't pull away. She waited. And the water slowly turned clear. The forest, once tense, exhaled. Something had been lifted. The stream stopped bubbling. The forest became still, almost like it was listening. Even the breeze held its breath. The girl raised her head slowly, unsure of what had just happened. Her hands no longer stung. In fact, they felt warm, like someone had wrapped them in sunlight. The old woman stood beside her, nodding gently. The curse was never in the object. It was in the silence, the fear, and the shame. You faced them now. But will people ever forget? The girl asked, her voice quiet. People forget slower than trees grow, the woman replied. But that's not your burden. Your job is to grow taller than their memory. The girl didn't reply. She was thinking, not just about the past, but about what came next. The road ahead still looked long. But she didn't feel alone anymore. Something had changed inside her. Not everything made sense yet, but her chest no longer carried the weight of 100 stones. They began the walk back. This time, the forest didn't feel scary. The shadows seemed to dance instead of follow. Birds chirped in rhythm with her steps. Even the wind hummed like it was telling her she'd done something right. Back home, her mother sat outside, peeling yam. When she saw her daughter, she smiled. Not the tired, weak smile from before, but the one she used to give when she was proud. The girl walked over and knelt beside her. For a moment, they just sat in silence, the peeling knife moving slowly between them. Then her mother said, "You've been to the place my mother once spoke of." She called it the Forest of Truth. The girl looked up, surprised. She said only those who carry real weight on their hearts ever find it. And only the brave return. That night, the girl slept like someone with nothing to hide. No chasing shadows. No whispers. Just dreams of clear water, soft wind, and a voice that said, "You're free." But freedom came with something else, responsibility. She knew others in the village were carrying their own hidden stones. Silent mistakes. Quiet shame. She had healed. Now, it was time to help others do the same. Days passed, then weeks. The whispers didn't vanish completely, but their edges grew dull. People still watched her, but some began to nod when they saw her. One woman even called her strong. That word stayed with her for days. She returned to school with her shoulders a little higher. She started helping others without waiting to be asked. If someone forgot their lunch, she shared hers. If a classmate looked upset, she stayed behind to talk. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about becoming whole again. One afternoon, she noticed a younger girl sitting alone behind the school's water tank, her eyes red from crying. She didn't ask questions. She just sat beside her. Quiet at first. Then slowly, the girl spoke. About breaking her mother's favorite cup. About hiding it. About feeling like something bad was following her. The older girl listened with a steady heart. "You're not bad," she finally said. "You just made a mistake. But mistakes don't mean the end. Sometimes, they're just the beginning." That same evening, she walked to her aunt's house again, not to apologize, not to beg, but to thank her. For the lesson. For the pain that shaped her. For everything. Her aunt looked at her carefully, then smiled, small but real. "You've grown," she said. "I can see it in your eyes." Later that night, while fetching water from the compound tap, the wind blew strong and carried laughter from nearby homes. Not mocking laughter this time, but the kind that made the evening feel soft. She stood there, bucket in hand, looking at the stars. She was still young. Still learning. But now, she had something no curse could take: clarity. She knew that curses only win when you let fear take the wheel. She knew silence can chain you, but truth can break locks. And most of all, she knew that even one mistake could lead to something bigger: understanding, growth, maybe even healing for others. From that day, they didn't call her cursed anymore. They called her something else. Wise. Rain came suddenly one evening, wild and heavy. The kind that soaks you before you can run. Children danced in it, shouting and spinning with arms open. She watched them from her window, smiling faintly. That used to be her once, carefree and full of laughter. Now, her laughter came softer, but deeper. She heard a knock. Slow. Hesitant. When she opened the door, she saw a boy from school. Not someone she spoke to often. He stood there, drenched, gripping something wrapped in nylon. "My sister, she's been having dreams," he said quietly. "She says there's something following her. Please, can you help?" Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from realization. People were coming to her now. Not just to talk, but to find peace. "Come in," she said. They sat by the fire her mother had just lit. The boy explained how his sister had stopped eating. How she woke up screaming. How their mother said it was spiritual, but no one could help. The girl didn't have all the answers. But she knew where to begin. "Did she do anything she regrets?" she asked. The boy nodded. "She took something from her friend and lied." The girl exhaled deeply. A familiar story. She wrote a few things on a piece of paper. Told him what to do. How to speak to his sister. How to help her face what she was hiding. Not with fear, but with truth. When he left, her mother watched her carefully. "You're turning into your grandmother," she said softly. That woman helped people even when her back was bent with age. The girl smiled. "I'm just doing what someone did for me." Later that night, she placed the old bracelet back into the carved wooden box and wrapped it in cloth. Then she buried it under the mango tree, the same one where it all began. She whispered, "You taught me well." Above her, the wind rustled the branches like a soft reply. And just like that, the last weight left her chest. Her story, once a tale of shame, had become a seed. A seed that would grow into something bigger than she ever imagined. Word spread quietly. Not through gossip, but through whispers filled with hope. The girl who was once cursed had become the one people now called when the night felt too heavy or when dreams refused to leave. She didn't call herself a healer. She didn't wear white or burn herbs. She just listened, really listened. And when people told her what they were carrying, she showed them where to lay it down. One afternoon, an elderly man came to their home. Bent with age and holding a walking stick, he sat under the mango tree without saying a word. She came out and offered him water. He sipped slowly and then said, "I shouted at my daughter the day she left home. She never returned. Now I dream of her crying every night." The girl didn't flinch. She nodded, her hands folded in her lap. "Have you tried asking for her forgiveness?" she asked. He scoffed. "She's not here." "But your words are," the girl replied. "Say them anyway." That evening, the man stood under the mango tree, facing the sky, and spoke to the wind. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just honest. And when he was done, he wept like a child. He left lighter. The next morning, he came back, not for help, but with a bag of groundnuts. A quiet thank you. Her mother watched all of this with a calm heart. Sometimes she offered quiet support. Sometimes she said nothing at all. But deep down, she knew, this was no longer just her daughter. This was a girl who had walked through shadows and found light. Still, the girl remained humble. She still swept the compound. She still washed plates. She still went to school. But now, people stopped her to ask for directions, not to places, but to peace. The mango tree had become a symbol. People started leaving notes at its base. Folded papers filled with regrets and prayers. She never read them. She just sat beside the tree sometimes, watching them flutter in the wind like they were learning how to breathe again. Her journey had started with one mistake. But now, it was healing others. The day came when a stranger arrived in the village, a young woman in jeans and a blouse, carrying a camera and notebook. She said she was writing about stories that changed lives. Someone had told her about a girl who turned a curse into a calling. At first, the girl felt shy. She didn't think her story was worth writing. "I only made a mistake," she said. "Then I tried to fix it." The woman smiled. "That's what makes it powerful." They sat under the mango tree. The same place where tears had fallen, where whispers had turned into prayers, where truth had finally been spoken. And now, it had become a place where the past sat quietly beside the future. The girl told her story, not to boast, not to be praised, but because she had promised herself never to stay silent again. She talked about the bracelet, the fear, the curse, the forest, and the forgiveness. She spoke slowly, with a voice that had learned how to carry weight without breaking. By the time she finished, the woman had tears in her eyes. "I've traveled far," she said. "But I've never seen someone so young teach so many people without raising her voice." The next day, her story was shared. Not just in their village, but in the next town, and then the next. People began coming from farther places, asking for the girl who helped people speak their truth. Some brought pain. Some brought silence. Some just sat under the mango tree and listened. The girl didn't try to be a savior. She only tried to be a mirror. To show people that what they carried didn't have to carry them. One evening, as the sun slipped behind the hills, she stood beneath the mango tree with her mother. They watched a small crowd gathered, some laughing, some crying, some just resting. "Do you feel proud?" her mother asked. The girl smiled gently. "I feel ready." Ready for what? For whatever comes next. Because one mistake had once cursed her. But now, her story was no longer about a curse. It was about becoming the kind of light that no shadow could swallow.